Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday night with I'm Lady Hamilton. Welcome to Headmaster's Homeroom. I am so excited that you guys are here. I'm loving it. Thank you so much. It makes my day. I have such the guest for you tonight. So before we have him on, first of all, I want to say a huge shout out to our producer. He's got us up running on every stream tonight, and we're running great. So I'm going to just say hello to everybody. And again, I will look for your comments and your posts. Thank you so much for being here. It's really wonderful. The show is getting some steam, so that's because of you guys. And thank you for liking on it, sharing it, and following us. We really appreciate it because it allows us to bring our voice to you. It allows me to bring these wonderful guests around our beautiful nation to you and highlight them. So continue, please, to do so. Hit those likes, those thumbs up, share, and please follow us because we sure do appreciate being that. I can tell you for me, that's what my whole podcast is about, right? Our whole show is bringing you these great people who are doing wonderful things in their community, whether they've started a business or they're an artist or they're an author or they're, musicians or, they're running for office, whatever that they might be doing. It's such my pleasure and my honor to bring them to you so that I can highlight them. So with that being said, we're also going to get one of our sponsors going because I want to make sure I have all the time with my guest. And as I spoke to him before, we have a lot in common. We both love to talk. So I don't want to forget our beautiful sponsors. And without them, also, they help our show be here. So that is a huge bonus as well. Plus, everyone knows I love honey. If you have watched the show at all, you know that I use honey for everything. I cook with it on Sundays for you. I don't really have sugar in my house. And I've been fighting off allergies. Nurse Patrick who comes on the show even says it's God's, greatest, one of his greatest foods. So I love honey. I'm feeling great. My allergies are finally pretty much subsided just in time for the smoke that's coming from Canada. But anyways, I love it. And so I'm looking at this one tonight. This one, or this week, is the organic dragon fruit one. Look at the color of this. Now, I love all of their honeys, everyone. Be Nourished is phenomenal, and they're out of Maui, Hawaii, right? And I just could not be any more thankful to them because their honey is just some of the best I've ever had in the world. And I've been to multiple places around the world. Like I've said before, South Africa, Cuba, I've been to Australia, Mexico, Canada, and most of the states here. And I absolutely love it. Not only is it healing for us, our bodies, it is just some of the truly and most beautiful and just tastes so wonderful. And I mean that. You guys have seen me use this. I use this with the jalapeno dressing, I believe. And this is the organic dragon fruit. So if you guys go to, and I'll play you their commercial, if you go to Be Nourished, you get 22% off by using the code Liberty. So don't forget to use that. 22% off for using the code Liberty. So let me just show you who they are. Everyone, Be Nourished.
Honey. It's one of the greatest gifts to man. With millions of wildflowers in every bottle, the nourishing power of honey is still yet to be fully discovered. Be Nourished Healing Products combines healing ingredients from around the planet to the purest honey from the island of Maui to bring magic to your taste buds. The best honey from the most beautiful place to nourish your body, mind, and soul. From our hearts to yours, be nourished.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Again, don't forget, if you use the code Liberty, you get 22% off. So, and they truly are amazing. You guys have heard me talk about them. You create every show, and I mean it. I just love them, love them, love them. All right, without further ado, we have a wonderful guest here tonight. I get so excited for bringing these. these wonderful guests. I get to find out so much about them and the similarities of things we have in common. It makes my day. I reach out to people that I follow and find fascinating. I love their artwork. I love new books that are coming out. And I just am so excited because in this world where we're uncertain of what we're reading or what we want to read to our kids or what's in our libraries, I just love it. If we can't find it, create it, right? And I've brought you several authors who've done that, and even a publisher who is putting out these great books with his company because they're banning books, in certain areas. So, and the collaborations that are going on and highlighting them. So I really was fascinated not only with his artwork, but the book that he has written. And the more that we talk, the more we're finding out how much more similarities that we have. And I have a wonderful bio here for you that I'm going to read, but I couldn't be more honored and excited to always have my guests on. And love the True Social, everyone. I'm telling you. And there is a great group called Patriot Made, if you don't belong to it. Brian Snuffer, we had on before, started this group. Thank you, Brian. I love it, just to promote artwork. And I'm just seeing so many wonderful, talented people, and it's truly an honor. So tonight I have Rei Luzardo on, and I am so excited. So let me read you about his bio. Rei Luzardo has been inspired to express his passions through art from a very young age. With undergraduate and graduate degrees in different fields of art, Rei has experienced art as a communication tool, both as the artistic director for a large advertising agency and as a virtual artist with special interest to portraiture. Sorry, everyone. Rei has won numerous graphic design awards and is currently teaching graphic arts to talented high school students. He has also taught 3D animation and drawing classes, for which he received an honor as a member of the Who's Who among America's teachers. Rei additionally receives commission for charcoal portrait development and maintains an online gallery. Having grown up on a farm without running water or electricity, Rei developed a deep love for all things related to nature. He now lives in South Florida, which affords him plenty of stimuli for his awe and respect of God's creation. He's a father of 3 adult children who also express passions for art and music as careers. I told you we had stuff in common. You guys all know about my school, so I'm going to have him come on, and let's welcome Rei to our show.
Hi there. How are we doing?
I am great. It is so wonderful to have you on tonight. I started with a small bio, but if you want to go into more detail about your beginnings, and we will get to your wonderful art and book. Oh, you wait till you guys see his new piece, which I'm going to show you tonight. But if you want to give us a little bit more fill-in of who you are and what inspired you, first of all, he's got a teaching career, everyone, of 20-something years. So this is another bond we had. But what inspired you to be an artist? I mean, where did that come from? Youth? Give us a little bit more fill-in of who you are.
Well, I've always been a believer in teachers influencing us so much. I had no interest in art to begin with. And as you read from my bio, I grew up on a farm. And that farm was in Cuba. I was born in Cuba. And I came to America when I was in 4th grade. We were on one of the last legal flights out of Cuba. And in 4th grade, I had an art teacher who fell in love with this silly little thing that I did. I don't know why, but she fell in love with it. She put it on display in front of the school. And I was just doing it because it was, something you had to do for art. And that really was the point at which I said, maybe there's something to this art stuff. Maybe I want to do more of this. And that's where it started. It kind of planted a seed. And, you go on through life and you do all kinds of things and, you kind of forget about it for a while. But I took art courses in junior high, now called middle school, and in high school and so on. And I did go on to study art at an art school. And what I did basically was I worked in commercial art for many years. My first career was commercial art. As it said in the bio, I was an art director. And lo and behold, in my first year as a professional art director, I won a coveted Addy Award. And That was my first half of my life. I worked as an art director professionally, and fast forward a number of years, and I kind of fell into some things through a lot of events that happened in my life, and I wound up teaching. And
That
here we are.
Isn't that amazing how that circles back?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I was the same way. I wasn't a teacher to begin with in my life. I was a chef, and I loved art, and I love when the teacher really highlights you and for not being that perfect little artist. And that's one thing I learned in my graduate school too, is to look through their eyes and what they're doing. If they follow, you use this material, you've used this size or whatever, you're following the instructions, but how you portray that image is different from the next person. A lot of teachers just put up, oh well, this is the perfect turkey, so and then only the ones they deem that. And then there's those one teachers that really go, you know what, you've got something different, something special.
Yeah.
And they spark that up. And here I am later on in years. And again, I was, pastry chef first. And that was obviously, I would do a lot of decorations that way and sculptures and stuff that way. But then when I had my children and decided to go back to school, I started taking art, never thinking I was going to be the high school or the whatever. I'm going to be the artist, right? But then you circle back years later and here we are, because you want to inspire. And as I've gotten to talk with you, even knowing about your children, which I hope you tell us about, or our audience, your love to inspire and help our youth is a great connection that we had.
Yes, absolutely.
And I just love it, which probably leads to why you write books, or why you've written this book. But tell us about your children too, because you have really special children like I do as well. So
I have 3 adult children. Where do you start when you talk about your kids? My son is 29 years old, and he's kind of on his own now. He's trying to make his way in life, but it has not been easy for him. And my middle child lives with me. So everybody understands, I've been divorced for 13 years. And I live in a condominium with my 22-year-old daughter, but it's been very difficult with her, because something that I don't think I even told you is that daughter, the most beautiful, perfectly healthy, happy child ever, was damaged by the MMR vaccine. Within 24 hours of getting her MMR, I lost her. I mean, I lost her. She was a totally different person. And my ex-wife and I are the type not to take no for an answer. We went to a doctor who told us, you can forget the dreams you had for her. She's never going to get married. She's never going to go to school, and all of these horrible things. So for a period of time, I guess from the time she was 2 to the time she was 4 years old, she was getting 28 to 29 hours of therapy a week on all types of alternative medicines and all kinds of things. And by the time she went to school, she lost her label, and she was considered gifted until she entered middle school. And then what I call the hormone fairy came, and everything went south again. And right now we're in the midst of that. My youngest is 20 years old. She is going to the Berkeley School of Music, and she has a beautiful voice, amazing, beautiful voice. And hopefully one day, if you hear the name Rei Luzardo, you'll know that's my kid. So that's the story of my children. I'm in my home alone, but typically my daughter is with me.
Well, a little bit about, and I won't go into it too, but when you have children with difficulties, or whether they have a disorder or they have an illness or you have anything or any kind of it's hard, people. And I know many of you can relate with that, right? And when they get harmed in a certain way or whatever, and it changes who they are, it is extremely extremely. But we love our kids and we know how beautiful and special they are, and we find ways around it. This is what I just loved it so much, because he's like, you could still go do and be. And that's what I believe. I have a son who's legally blind, and don't tell me he can't become something. And you're the same way. Okay, we just have a challenge now. How are we going to deal with this?
Yes.
Right. And it's just that you have such a beautiful heart. So I'm so glad that you shared that with us.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
That's
Always.
right. That's right. And you guys, he's also one of these teachers too that, I mean, I hate to say this, everybody, we have to be realistic sometimes. We have bills to pay and things like that. But he's a teacher that's reaching our students and teaching our students in ways that we all hope that a teacher is there. And it's really an honor to meet, and I know there's several of you out there, but it's also an honor to meet teachers that are doing the best they can in a system that's so broken.
Yeah. I'd like to tell you a story actually about a student, not even my own student, a student of a friend of mine. The kid, I'm not going to mention any names for legal reasons, but the student would come to school with his hair covering his face. You couldn't see his face, and he would be wearing a COVID mask. So you couldn't see him. You didn't know what he looked like. You had no idea. So she sent a message to a counselor and myself. It's like, this child is in my class and he is always drawing. And my class is not about drawing. She had seen the teacher had seen my artwork, and she said, do you think that Mr. Luzardo could speak to him one day? So, we made arrangements, and the kid came to visit me, and, we were talking for a while, and brilliant young man. But, through a lot of life circumstances, he just was very insecure, didn't know what to do with himself. And again, not my student, but we talked for a good hour and a half. He came during my planning period, and we talked the entire planning period and into lunch, because it was right before lunch. And by the time it was over, I had this kid, pulling his hair back. He was taking his mask off, because I asked him, like, are you wearing the mask? Because, I'm in Florida, we haven't been wearing masks in forever. So I asked him, are you wearing the mask because, you're afraid of catching COVID, or do you want to hide? I just want to hide because I think I'm ugly. And those are his words, not mine. And I said, okay, I want you to take the mask off. Take the mask off. So he pulls down his mask, and I put my phone on selfie mode, and I said, look at yourself. Is this an ugly person? He said, no, you have a filter on. It's like, no, I don't have filters. I don't know how to use those things. So he says, no, you have a filter. I was like, no, this is a good looking person, and you need to pull that hair up. And, he was always dressed in black and all this. So next day, the kid comes to school, no mask, hair is pulled back. Eventually he got a haircut, and he's talking to people, he's making friends. And I mean, that was like my ultimate success story, even though he wasn't my student. But, when you see an opportunity, you take it, you help people. That's what we do.
Yes. I'm replying to someone, because on the world of art changes, is what I'm writing, changes things. I mean, so many things. And I'm like tearing up as you're telling this story, because I have so many similar stories when I worked in the school system too, or what I see now. I mean, our youth are just struggling. They don't know who they are. They're hearing all kinds of things. They're just dealing with life and making decisions built on emotions. But in the meantime, they're losing the sense of who they are, and the possibility of becoming something, or even seen as beautiful. And everyone can ban me. I don't care where you want to ban me from. But it's another example of how all youth are possible. This kid, right, didn't even think he was beautiful. And right, just a teacher who believes in them, next thing you know, changes their whole world. Art, it doesn't always have to be about drawing either. It's if you can just find how these kids think, or find an avenue to let them see the world through a different lens, and the different art forms out there. And trust me when I say this, everyone, there's over 30 something plus art fields. It's amazing how you can change a child to start even just having faith in their own selves. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
What a beautiful story. How's the student doing now? Is this a recent thing that just happened to you?
This was something that started around the middle of the school year. We just ended the school year yesterday. So today was my first day of summer.
Nice.
And he's doing great. He's doing fantastic. He's a different man. He's totally changed.
And
And he
I
shared
bet
with me,
that affected all of his other classes as well.
oh, I don't know. I'm not his teacher.
No,
So, but I would hope so. But, just his whole outlook, it's so different.
right.
He told me towards the end of the year, he would stop by because he was with the teacher next door. He would stop by every once in a while. And he just told me that, he's taking a trip abroad with his grandmother. And he's really looking forward to that. Whereas before, he never got out of his house. So,
Look at that.
yeah.
Look at what you've done, and how many, lives you just don't know how many you've touched, but for sure you can see it that, it's not just, that's what I mean about service, everyone. Did that cost anything but your time? No. And you've changed that child's perspective and a possibility of his life, just even with a positive outlook.
Yeah.
You can see that with just one. It's
But
amazing what we can
I
do.
want to make sure that people out there who are listening to us realize that you don't have to be a teacher
No,
to help somebody. You just have to have your eyes open because, I don't want to talk about myself. This isn't about me, but, there have been many opportunities that I've been confronted with that I could have said like, no, go on. Let me just ignore this. But no, you choose to engage and you make a difference in a person's life,
right.
we were not put here to be selfish. We were put here to help each other.
Oh, I completely agree with that. I always say, I love it when the Savior said that we need to love and serve one another. Now, I know that to truly do that, it's hard, but that serving thing's not so hard.
No.
I've spoke many times on my programs about starting in something in your library was free, or, your church group or your whatever, but even taking that one time when you see someone might not be suffering. It doesn't have to be a youth either. It could be just seeing another person in need of that you giving and saying, hey, how can I make you smile today?
Yeah.
And it, right, like you said, you don't have to be a teacher to give.
And a smile is the best thing that we can do because we may be at our local supermarket or the gas station or whatever, and yours may be the only smile that person sees that day.
That's right. Right. That is my slogan is be the reason someone smiles today. That's
Exactly.
always one thing. And one of the simplest things I do, even at any store I'm at, I always recognize their name tags. So when I leave, I'll say, thank you so much, Joan, or whatever, or Dave, or whatever. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And they automatically look down like, how do I know my name? And they smile. And it could be that simple. And that cost nothing. And it took a few seconds, everyone,
Yes.
just to recognize that you saw that person and you thank them for helping you,
Absolutely.
Amazing. You are a special man. So we have
I
another
don't
thing
think
in
so.
common.
I am just my father's son.
Well, you know what?
I
Thank your
mean,
great parents.
financially.
Gotta thank great parents for raising great kids. A father's so important. And as we're coming up to Father's Day, know that it's, even my husband who talks about this in health class, the role of the father is so important in the
Yes.
nuclear family, whether you're married or not, just that father that's active with that child or children is vital to their upbringing, and I'm so grateful for really good men and fathers. So just know that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Um, so we have another thing in common, and he's from Cuba, everybody, and I've been to Cuba. I got to go on a study abroad with my school and live with families, which Cuba, we both agreed, is a very, very beautiful country. And I highly suggest everyone go and take a visit there, because when you go there, and if you can, try to be as, I know that you probably stay in a resort and things like that, but try to go as local as possible to really, truly understand living as a Cuban. I got to live with them, eat like them, survive like them. So I had a whole different experience than going to Havana and being on a resort. I would share a shower with the neighbor next door who's cooking breakfast, and we're sharing this, thing. I mean, right. It was you got to know each other very, very well. And carry water. You talked about remembering those kind of things. So what do you remember about your life on Cuba? Because I don't think our audience understands, especially being in America, what being in America actually. And I should rephrase that, because multiple people tell me all the time, even when I was in Cuba, I'm from America, because we live in the Americas, everyone, and they consider themselves living in the Americas as well. So we're from the United States. Let me say that we're from the United States. But what makes our republic so different is our freedoms.
Yes.
And I don't think people understand. That's why I encourage you to go abroad and try to see as local as you can, because there's a humbling experience to carrying your water home every day.
I did
Right?
that literally. As you read in my bio, I grew up in the country in Cuba. I was born in a city, but my parents quickly moved back to the country where they were from. And we had no running water. We had no electricity. And you asked earlier, what I remember. I have a very good memory.
Nice.
So I remember practically everything. I have vivid memories of my childhood. Growing up on the countryside, I can just close my eyes and see a lot of things. As a matter of fact, if I'm having trouble falling asleep, sometimes that's exactly what I do. Before we go any further, I was born in Cuba, but I came when I was 9 or 10 years old, and I consider myself an American. I'm proud to be an American, I became naturalized as soon as I turned 21. As soon as I could go and take that pledge, I did that, and I've been voting ever since. But it's a gift to have grown up someplace else, someplace that is so different. Because I remember coming to America and knowing not a word of English. And let me segue into something here for a second. I'll get back to that. Where I teach, it's a predominantly Cuban population. So ever since the Christmas break, we've had some 400 or 500 new Cuban students who entered the school. Wow. And not speaking a word of English. And some of them have had to, live in the mountains and all kinds of things, getting away from the government. I mean, I'm sure some of them are illegal, but I'm not going to go there.
They're here now.
As far as my my memories of Cuba, I remember being a child. I wrote a book called The Fish and the Snake, which is being printed right now. And a lot of what happens in that book is really based on the memories that I have from my childhood. So to explain a little bit about the book, again, it's not available yet. It is in printing at this very moment. I wrote the book because I feel that as a teacher for 24 years, we are losing our children. There is very little understanding of what a faith life is. Social media, unfortunately, there's the front cover and the back cover of the book.
I just want to show everybody really quick how beautiful that is, but please continue.
The book, to get back to it, I kind of lost my train of thought there, right, looking at the book. I feel that we're losing our youth.
Yes.
That's where it started. Okay. And especially these new kids who are just coming in from other countries where, in Cuba, it is no longer forbidden to follow a specific religion. But when I grew up there, it was. Now it's just frowned upon. And because it is, it's too much effort, nobody knows anything. And, you can say anything that has to do with, God or the Bible, and they are clueless. They have no idea. So for me, I've always had a love of books. Growing up, one of the memories I've had, see, I'm tying all this in together. I loved reading books when I was a child. My mom loved reading books, and I grew up in a family that on my mom's side was very literate. Everybody was into reading. Matter of fact, most of my mom's side of the family, they were all in the educational field. So my uncle lent me this book that was Grimm's Fairy Tales, the entire collection. And I loved that book. It was so beautiful. It was beautifully illustrated, and I used to faithfully read that book every day. Funny story. Remember, no electricity, so we used to light ourselves with kerosene lamps. And at one point, there was like a big blob of soot that landed on the book. I was mortified. It's not so much because I thought my uncle was going to kill me, which he probably was, but because I had ruined this beautiful book. And that is one of my most regretful memories ever, even though, I didn't put the soot there, it just landed there from the lamp. So fast forwarding to where we are today, that is kind of like where I am going with this book. I want to interject faith with kind of I don't want to say the fairy tale world, but the fantasy world, which is very, very important when you're telling a story to a child or a young person. In the late 1980s, I don't know if any of you have heard of it, there was an author named Joseph Gersoni who wrote a series of books about Jesus. And it was fiction. It was Christian fiction. And I was mesmerized by those books. To this day, I give people the first book as a gift for Christmas and birthdays, whenever I can find a copy of it. It was called Joshua, the first one. The second one was Joshua and the Children, and the third one was The Shepherd. See, I still remember. But that series of books was very impactful, and I had that in mind when I was doing this. So in my book, I am telling basically the story of creation, Jesus, life, Christianity, in a very short book. It's only about 60 pages long, because, again, it's written for like a middle school level. And you saw that illustration of the cover in the beginning. I didn't illustrate that. We've been talking about me as an artist, but I didn't illustrate that because my style of art is very realistic, and I wanted something that was more cartoon-like for the book. So I was able to get someone who would do the illustrations for the book, and even consulted one of my young nieces, hey, how does this style look? How does that style look? Oh yeah, that's what I like. Okay, that's what we're going with. So, so in the book, basically, it tells a story, very quick little synopsis of the great wizard. The great wizard is God,
right?
And he has this wondrous cape, and the wondrous cape is the universe,
right?
And it's the Holy Spirit. And eventually, he creates everything in all creation, and Satan gets into it in the form of a snake. That's why the book is called The Fish and the Snake. And Jesus comes to this mystical, magical planet to save the planet from the influence of the evil snake. And Jesus comes in the form of a fish.
Right.
Because we relate Jesus to fish. He ate fish, and for me, it was very important also because there's a chapter in the book wherein there is a young man in the book who is mesmerized by a river, and he's looking at the fish down underneath, and he's just looking at it, and that's actually me. That's kind of a little bit of my autobiography, because there was a river close to where I lived, and I used to go fishing every day on that little river, and I used to be mesmerized by the little fish at the bottom. And basically, you got to read the book so you can see the whole thing. I'm not going to get into the whole.
Which I have. Which I have. I'm busted at the seams because there's so much I want to tell you my thoughts, but please continue.
No, I know you have, because I sent you the unfinished version of the book. But it's pretty much, what you read is pretty much the way it's going to be in the end. So we'll see, we'll see how it does. We see, we will see how many people actually we can influence. I'm hoping if I can touch one child, it will be a success.
Right. So everyone, Right. I'm going to show you this again so you can see a little bit of the graphics. Let me see if I can make it bigger for everyone. There, let's see right here. I think that's the biggest I can get everyone. But this
Yes,
is right, the fish and the snake, right? And I mean, he didn't do the graphics, but when he talked about the cartoonish more of it for children to relate to, they're all done so beautifully well. And this book, I don't know if he's selling it and he's doing a good job, but let me tell you my opinion. Okay. First of all, I loved this book. I loved that it was in this fantasy world, but it was the story of the Father above and the Savior, right? And it's the typical Bible story of the whole, the Bible and Jesus coming and so forth. With that being said, though, I was taken away in this magical world, and the writing is so, and I love it. I love to celebrate creative writers. In fact, in our school, every time we do American Lit, we celebrate local American authors because I love to do that. So not only is this book written for, I don't think it's not a book for like babies. It's not a learner book, everyone. It's a book to read to children. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the words even in this, okay. I mean, I was like, he's kept words in here that normally little children wouldn't hear. Right off the bat, inertia is going through my head. But I love that you kept that in because I think that we do a dissatisfaction to our youth by just assuming you don't understand these words. So we're going to leave these out instead of just letting them hear them in contents and increasing their vocabulary. I was just loving this. Not all of it, but every once in a while there is thrown in a word that you and I would maybe understand, but maybe a child wouldn't. But I'd love for them to ask, what does that mean? Or hear it in contents. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But he's also written so vividly that you can imagine the scene. And there are some really great writers out there, whether you like Ayn Rand or not, everyone. But the way she describes a scene, when you read the beginning of her chapters, you are walking into that and vividly seeing the scene. Ray has done the same. I am so thrilled to read this. Sorry, I'm so thrilled to read this. And visually, I can see it without having to have a picture. And it's just so beautifully done. I wanted to say a major celebration on that. Because I love it when an author invites you into a book and you can physically see what they're writing. Visualize that. Even though the graphics are great, everyone. They really are. But it just took me away. I wasn't expecting this per se. I like that it was a fantasy, and I think you're right. Kids will relate to the fantasy more, especially if they're tuned off with God. And I even tell students, that's a great thing again about being in the United States. That freedom of religion gives you also the right to not believe. Where, like you said in Cuba, I remember that because they were just telling us when we were visiting that the freedom of religion had only been like a year old at this time. And Santeria, the religion Santeria was on the rise. But they never had that. You have to believe in this. There wasn't even a choice. Like there was not a choice that you couldn't believe either. You had to believe and go to this religion. So having the freedom to even not have a religion here is a freedom. But this book was just written in a way where I think our youth, like you said, we're losing our youth. So to give them an avenue to understand God through a fantasy world is brilliant. I think, I loved it.
Yeah. If I'm, a parent picking up this book, I could see reading the book with my young adult child and then saying like, hey, now we read this.
Yes.
How about this? And you bring in scripture. Does this sound familiar? How does this compare to this book? What do you think? And you got them right there.
Right. And, one relationship, and I'll tell you my favorite part. Not that it all wasn't great, but I do always have a favorite. My one of my students were writing about the Roman Empire or the Roman Republic, everyone. Sorry. And we got to the point right before they had the empire, their solution, because they had so many slaves that people who were locals couldn't compete and couldn't find jobs. So they started moving to the cities. So the government's idea for a solution was we will give them free food and entertainment. And one of the students go, isn't that kind of like our welfare system today where you get like food stamps and a cell phone?
Well,
But by introducing that subject, now you can go, you're right, really, it's like, look how history repeats itself.
Yeah.
So by introducing this in a fantastical way, you're introducing the Lord and God into the relationship, going, doesn't it sound familiar?
Yeah,
Now, my favorite part is how you described the living waters. Do you want me to tell it, or do you want?
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
You go ahead.
I love that, like, everything is a metaphor, right? For the Savior as the fish. We know that he's the many fishes of the waters. He's the healer. He's the love, right? But we also hear him as the living waters. And so when Christ starts forming from the fish to human, and it's Aurel who gets to see this, right? And help with this process. And I'm like, he formed into these wings of water first from the river, and the light that reflected off of these were the rainbow, which you started bringing in, the rainbow and the light, which was from this gray fish that thought it wasn't that pretty, it wasn't that great. But as he started to bring about his love and his being, it was just so impressive to see. I mean, described these wings, and I could visualize them without even seeing the picture of these clear, enormous, gorgeous wings that was reflecting all lights imaginable. And then left us with the thought too throughout the story that I felt that we each had these wings with us. They may be invisible, but that is the living water of the Savior catching our back, helping us there with those. And I was just like, this was just blew me away how you not only described it, but used it in your book. I could visualize it. I felt a relationship to it. And like I said, the whole book I loved, but I had never seen living waters described in wings, first of all, and water wings at that. It just was so great. I can't wait for it to be published, everyone, and for you to read this, buy this, share this, read it to your families. It's so great.
I'll tell you what, writing it was a exhausting process. After writing, a chapter, a few pages, I would feel drained because I felt as the Lord was working through me and putting it into my fingers, and I would be typing it. And I'm getting chills just saying that, because I do honestly feel that that's what happened. Just so you know, I've always been very involved with my faith. And I hope that comes through. But I was, when I was a young adult in my teens and my 20s, I was a young adult minister for my church. And that's where I met my ex-wife. To this day, I'm still involved somewhat with it. COVID kind of ruined that for a lot of us. But to this day, I'm still somewhat involved with it. I put on retreats for men and for teenagers alike, and that sort of thing. So, it's who I am. And, there's a very large part of this book that is who I am. And, as far as the wings are concerned, I know you said you're going to show a piece later, which has wings in it also. As far as
I'm looking it up as we speak, but keep going. Go ahead.
As far as everything else that I do, because, if you were to go to Truth Social, for example, and read my bio, you would see in there that, I'm a photographer, I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I'm all these things. So there's a piece that I just completed this morning. This piece I haven't put on social media yet or anything. You guys get to be the first to see it. Yes. So this piece, I wish we could go in a little bit closer on the face, but if you look at the face closely, you'll notice that there's something different about this angel. This is actually my niece, and I have a.
Does that help, Ray?
Yeah, a little bit, but I have a 27-year-old niece. There you go. That works. I have a 27-year-old niece who was born with Down syndrome, and I've done several angels. If you want to see, more of my work, you can go to Truth Social. You can go to Facebook, Instagram. I have accounts on all of those. where I post all my work. I also have an online portfolio. But again, this piece has not been published to any social media yet. I'll put it on there tomorrow. So this is actually my niece. And I wanted to draw her in such a way that would show that, because you are a special individual, you have Down syndrome, you're ADHD, you're blind, you're deaf, you are an angel to someone somewhere. My niece, the person you see here in this drawing, she has been an angel to our entire family. When she was born, she was not expected to survive. Her first 6 months of life were spent connected to God, every tube and wire that you can imagine. She almost didn't make it. But, here she is today. She's 27 years old. And, I had her pose for me, holding a sword that I have on my wall. As I look in front of me, I have the sword on my wall. So I had a pose like that. Yeah, there's the sword right there. And if you look into the wings, these wings are very different. There is lightning in the wings, and there are like stars and, bright and dark areas and all that. So one of the things that I'm not shy to use technology. I am, as a commercial art teacher now, one of the things I teach is Photoshop. So I went into Photoshop and I composed this entire image in Photoshop first, and then I drew it from my composition. And that's what I do with a lot of these images. This, if you know anything about Photoshop, it uses layers, for different images. And this probably has a good 12 layers in it to get to where I want it to be. And then, I'll go in and I'll do my drawing from. This is charcoals, by the way. People may not be familiar with using charcoals, because when most people think charcoals, they go, "Ew, that's dirty, that's nasty." I don't want to use that. So they have charcoal pencils now, folks, that you don't have to get your fingers all stained. Some people have told me, "Oh yeah, but when you blend it, use your fingers." Like, no, I don't use my finger. I use a blending stump, or a tortillon as it's called. And a lot of the blending that I do in charcoals is I actually use a soft bristle brush to blend it all in. And that's why I'm able to achieve the look that I have here, And, what about the white areas? That's actually something that's called white charcoal. I don't think there's such a thing as white charcoal, but that's what they call it. I think it's some kind of chalk or something, but it's all in the charcoal family, and the gray in the background is just the board. I always work with gray boards, and I bring the highlights out using that white, and the middle tones are always the board itself. And then I'll go into, different charcoals, a softer charcoal for the really dark areas, or, something that's a little bit harder for the softer areas, and so on.
Yes. So. Nice. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. And I know and have members of my family, that have Down syndrome. And I have just met some of the most beautiful people and spirits with Down syndrome. And this is just done so beautifully, not only to celebrate people like that with disabilities, but to know that, look at this, we're all angels. And this is just one fierce, beautiful angel. Right. I love the lightning through the wings. I just saw this and I was like, wow, I love it. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautifully done.
Thank you. I've done in this angel series that I've done probably 3 or 4 angels now. If you go to my True Social, you can see it. You can see it there. It's Ray. It's my name twice on True Social, and on Instagram, I'm Rei Luzardo Art. Oh, there's my portfolio, my online portfolio. Mm-hmm. You can go there and you can see everything there too. And funny story of how I got into drawing again. All right. So, there's a portrait section, there's a fine art section that you can see there. There's some, miscellaneous stuff, some anatomy stuff, and there's even a photography one that I just started putting together. Funny story is, I used to just do photography exclusively. I did no artwork for years because I didn't have the time. I didn't have the time to get into. And if you click on any of those that you want, they'll come up, really nice and big, so you can see it bigger.
Who should we click on? Do we have an Alexander Hamilton?
No,
right.
No, we don't.
We'll click on Superman. I mean, they're all great, everyone. But I mean, just look at the detail. Let me see if I can get that. Nope, I can't get that bigger, everyone. But look at the beautiful
that's about as big as you can make it there on that screen. But I did most of the actors who have played Superman there. Most of them are on there. The story is, as I was saying, I only did photography because I figured, I have no time. I'm a full-time dad. I'm a full-time teacher. And I would do a lot of photography. And on Instagram, way back when, I was Rei Lu, my first name and the first two letters of my last name, and that was all architectural type of photography. I did a lot of that, and did that for many years. Matter of fact, I even ran a hub for other photographers to post on there. But it wasn't until the COVID lockdowns that I went back to drawing. I was sitting at home, making myself crazy. Didn't know what to do. I could barely, go outside because, we weren't supposed to go outside and all this.
Right.
So my son said, Dad, why don't you do some drawing? You used to draw so well back then. And I started drawing, and that's, where it's saying, there's another angel. So yeah, that's the angel Raphael from the book of Tobit.
Beautiful.
No, thank you. And what's really funny about this one is a lot of people see it and they tell me, it's like, oh, you drew your son, because the face happens to look like my son, and it's totally accidental. It's accidental.
Son, then.
I did not mean for it to look like my son at all.
But gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, he's a handsome young man.
Nice.
But so I just been doing this ever since. It's been like 3 years and a little bit. That one over there with the American flag that sorts the top, that's actually it's actually at a gallery right now. The local gallery had or has a show going on right now about the American flag. So I decided, to do, the story of creation, and God created America and he saw that it was good.
I love it. I love it. Wow, everyone. I'm just having so much fun looking into this gallery. I mean, there's so many beautiful things. Your hand is really truly touched by God, and I love that that he inspires us to create all different kinds of things, and draw all different kinds of things. This is just absolutely beautiful. We got the thinker, Mary, just gorgeous. When did you start on your book? Just by chance?
The book actually took me about a year. It actually took me about a year to write. I finished it last summer. So, being a newbie at publishing, it's taken about a year to get out there. So, it's been a 2-year process because I was working on the book, like pre-COVID, and I finished it, actually I don't even know. No, it was post-COVID. It's hard to tell, exactly when I did all this, because everything's kind of like jumbled up. But it took me about a year to write the book. It honestly did. So that angel right there, that was actually a commission that I had. That's why it says not for sale. And that was my Saint Michael the Archangel. If I had to do that again, I would make it look very different. But hey, that's where I was at that point in time. That one goes back probably a good 2 or 3 years.
Nice. Very beautiful, though. Very beautiful. It's absolutely, everyone, absolutely gorgeous. You need to absolutely check this out. I put this in the link for everyone to see this as he was describing his work for you, so that you can see that. I will also post his links underneath my Rumble chat, like I always do, my Rumble channel. I post all links. His link is already there, but in the chats underneath everything, the permanent chats, I will also post all links so that you can go and find it. As you can see, right, I also wanted to highlight here that commissions are accepted, everyone. So if, whether you like his artwork, I mean, which I love, but if you want him to do something for you too, he's also accepting commissions. But I am just blown away by, your talent. It is so great. It's so great. But I also find it interesting too, how many of us were really sparked in 2020 by God. And I say this for a reason, because most of my guests, one of the things that we have in common is God was very busy in 2020, going, I want you to do this, or I want you to write this book, or I want you to open this, or, I mean, call it the Great Awakening or whatever you might say, COVID, a blessing in disguise. But I find that God was really busy with a lot of us going, hey, I think that you're talented enough to start this, do this.
Yeah. The funny story about, the book is I was actually working on another book before this one. One of the many things that I've done is I used to have, it's still open, an Instagram channel called, what was it called? I can't remember right now. I'll look it up while we talk. Because I don't really post into it anymore. But what I would do, it was called but a shadow, but_a_shadow, but a shadow. So what I would do is I would look at the scripture for the day, and I would write a daily reflection on that scripture. I would actually wake up and write a daily reflection. So I was planning to do a book on the Gospel of Matthew, all my collected reflections from the Gospel of Matthew, and it got to be huge. So I kind of stopped working on that book because it was going to be like a coffee table book. When I just got the message, you got to write this book. It just took over, and I haven't gone back to that coffee table one. Maybe one day I'll continue on that one, but the but a shadow, by the way, why is it called but a shadow? That is a quote from the great Michelangelo, because the great Michelangelo said, the true work of art is but a shadow of the divine perfection.
That's right.
And that's on my email signature.
So nice. I love it. I love it. I mean, it amazes me how, in a world where they're saying, do something, change something, create something, the Lord has really inspired so many around this nation and probably the world, to be honest with you, to do that, create something, and this, like I said, everyone, this book is really great. I'm assuming this is your first book to be published then.
Yes. Yes. A total newbie at this. But, like I said, I was inspired, divine inspiration, and I wrote it. I've only shared it with less than a handful of people, people in the family and such. And everybody who has read it has been very complimentary. Everybody really likes what I wrote. So some people are like, when is the next one? And like,
right.
Hold on, let's see how this one does first.
Well, on a side note, I'm going to send you an email because we have a publisher that does digital and audio books. And this would be a really good digital book as well. Just to have for people who, maybe not want the actual physical book, but I'm a physical book kind of person. Not only did he send me the digital version of this, but I'm so old school, I had to print it out. And I'm highlighting things that I love. And I'm a note taker, everyone. So when I'm not kidding about the water and the wings, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. And look at this word he's added. And, I was like, I just have to have the physical book. But a lot of people out there are digital. And we'll put you in touch with as many people as we can, because I love collaborations. Oh, it's a great book. I can't wait for you to write more. I don't know what your next subject will be. I also love Matthew as well.
Yeah.
But I can see that being quite long, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's awesome. So now you have a summer. What are you gonna do with these? Some time off, no students?
Well, honestly, I need some time. I need some time away. So I'm leaving on a cruise to Alaska next week.
Oh, neat. Oh, wow. That's something I've never been. One of the few states I've never been to is Alaska.
Yeah.
or even taking, because I hear the cruises are magnificent. I don't know if it's I think the whales move in the spring and go up north more, but maybe you'll have some whale watching, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be great. Are you going to be
I've had friends who've taken this cruise and they've told me, oh yeah, you're going to see whales, you're going to see eagles, you're going to see all kinds of like really fantastic nature. And I love nature. That's one of the things that inspires me. It's funny because I was talking to a neighbor a couple of days ago, and somehow we got into the topic of nature and traveling and such. It's like, well, you have to like nature, to do whatever she was doing. And I said, no, that's where I'm at. I'm a nature kind of guy. I like camping. I don't like camping out, in a tent, because funny story about me, I have this irrational fear of snakes. So.
Oh my gosh, I do too. That crazy.
But I won't go in a tent, but I will rent a cabin and I'll stay in a cabin. But no, it's funny because that goes back to my youth. Growing up on the farm, I went out to pick some limes from a lime tree, and as I'm sitting there, just picking the lime, there's this humongous snake that just like went like by my feet, and I just totally freaked out. And that ever since, it's like I have nightmares about snakes regularly. It's like it's irrational. I know it's irrational. But what are you going to do? I have absolutely no fear of anything else in this entire life. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the devil. I'm not afraid of any of those things. But snakes terrify me.
Like crazy, and mine comes from a childhood fear too.
Yeah.
And something similar happened to me, and I'm like, oh, I'm out there. Cherries was mine. Something very similar, and you get into a snake situation, and as a kid, it just terrifies you.
Yeah.
And then I also have issues or dreams every once in a while about snakes, but I'm like you. I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid of Satan. I'm like, you have no power here, but the snake.
Yep. Yeah, I see. It's like, oh.
My husband's like, you're bigger than that snake, but I'm like, it bites and it kills, I'm like, but he's always, or this is a good snake. Why do you want me to remove the snake? I'm like, you don't have to kill it. You just need to get off the property.
No, there was once I was doing some gardening before I moved to a condo, and there was this little garden snake, and I've heard those are venomous, but this little garden snake that was like a couple of inches long, and I had a hoe, and I just like took that thing and I turned that thing into minced meat. It was like I think it was one of my kids looks and goes, I think you need to stop now because there's not much left of that snake.
Isn't that funny what phobias we have? This is how another thing of how impressionable youth are, everyone. I mean, right?
Yeah.
We carry things with us. And it's as rational as we might think it is, but that is a danger, and our body, gets alarmed with danger, and we carry that with us. But it's interesting because we were also warned when we went to Cuba too that there could be a snake that comes up through the toilets. There could be. I'm like, what? What do you mean that snakes can come up through the toilets? But they had to warn us of all the possibilities. I'm like, okay, so I'm sharing this as the people can see me when I shower. I have to take toilet paper with me everywhere. Snakes can come up through the plumbing of the water, because they did have water, but not for drinking purposes, everyone. I had to go and literally get that filled and bring back with jugs and stuff if I wanted drinking water.
Let me tell you a story or two. Okay. We had no running water, as I've said a couple of times. So my grandparents, they lived like a long stone's throw from our house, because it was the country. You can't measure it in blocks, but if I had to measure in blocks, it'd probably be like 3 blocks away. Okay. It was the next house, and I had to go through the cow field and all that. So they had a well. So I was a child. Remember, I came from Cuba. I don't remember if I was 9 or 10, but I came from Cuba when I was 9 or 10. So I would go to my grandparents' well and draw water from the well for drinking. And if we wanted water for washing clothes or whatever, cleaning, whatever, I would go to the river that was close by, and I would get the water. And I would take these 2 buckets. Okay. I was a child, remember, okay, less than 10 years old. So the 2 buckets filled with water are very heavy. So I would take one bucket, I would walk, 15, 20 steps, put it down, go back for the other bucket. And like that, I would eventually make it home. And that's what we use for showering. Also, we would take a bucket in with a little cup and just, cover ourselves up. No toilets. No, sorry. Outhouse.
Right, which I saw a lot in the country. I happened to be staying outside of Havana in apartments, and so we had those kind of things. And of course, it's been a few decades since you've been there. I'm sure they've modernized a few things, but these people still live in such a humble situation that they're still killing chickens to eat, and they're still carrying water, even with plumbing in their house. But there are certain things also as the beauty of Cuba. So everyone understands it really is quite a beautiful country, the countryside especially, but even mannerism and respect. So at the center where we had to walk was a school/church where we had to walk to go get our drinking water. Like you said, was probably maybe 3 or 4 blocks away. But I'm sitting there when a lot of people gather there just to sit and conversate. And I'm sitting there, probably the youngest of the people, but still I'm, middle age. And a young boy, like you said, maybe 7 or 8, comes with his juckets and buckets of water to fill for his family. But what blew me away is his mannerism. He stopped to give every single person a kiss on the cheek of respect. Started with women. So with me and the other woman sitting there, and then the man went and got his water, came out and did the exact same thing as he said goodnight. And I was like, wow, the respect he had for his elders was just unbelievable. So there's a sense there, and the love for music. Oh my gosh, the love for music. If you hear music going on in Cuba, people are moving their butts. They're moving. It just goes with it.
People ask me all the time if I dance. My response is, I'm Cuban.
Right. Right? But their hearts are just so loving. This is when, it's not that I didn't know before and I've not been other places, but when you realize that we're so alike, no matter where you go, we love our family, we love our elders, we love, and we love our God, we love whatever. We go to work, we go to school. Now, our laws may be different, our culture may be different, but the core of humanity is just, wherever you go, and we're so much more alike than we're different.
Yep.
But just that was such a beautiful, touching time just to see this little boy's respect, and then also watch him with multiple different buckets. And he was basically doing the same thing. He'd walk a little bit, come back for the other ones, grab them and move them. So it must be that maybe you started something. I don't know, but you figured out.
I think so.
7, right?
I didn't live in Havana. So.
Buckets of water. The kid's 7. You're like, wow.
No,
but it made me very much appreciative when I came back home from like, wow, the freedoms that we take for advantage here of just having clean running water that we could go drink, and there's no plastic. There's no plastic bottles of anything. You could go to like the resort towns and probably buy it, but there's no plastic jugs. There's no whatever. You have to, find those things because they don't sell things like this, everyone.
No.
That doesn't exist. You're recycling everything.
Luxury if you can find that.
It is a luxury. In fact, I believe I left something like this with my mommy, Poppy, in Cuba before I left because they were fascinated that we could put ice in here and it would stay cold for a couple of days just by itself. They're like, what? I was like, you want it? Go ahead. Anything I had that I could leave there, everyone.
Yeah.
I have one story for you. One of the things they should have taken us to do was take us to the grocery store right away and let us know what Cubans are given and portioned, right, versus what they have to buy. And I'm sitting there drinking coffee. Like, okay, everybody can see this is my coffee cup, pretty big. And I'm used to drinking coffee like this as Americans.
I know where you're going.
Right. And so Cubans drink shots, right? Like an espresso shot. Right. And I'm drinking it like it's going out of style. And they're giving it to me. And then a couple of weeks in, we go to the grocery store. And I found out they weren't rationed this. This is something you had to buy. Now, coffee is our price, the same as the United States, our price. And my poppy only made $35 a month.
Yep.
And here he is spending his entire money on my coffee. I'm like, what? Why did you not take us to the grocery store first? Because I didn't realize that they weren't rationed everything. They're not giving soap. They're not giving coffee. They're giving like a bag of rice, a bag of beans, a couple of eggs, and maybe some chicken. And that's it, people. Some fruits and vegetables, but minimal. And they have to buy everything else. And the pricing is like what we would pay here. I was mortified.
It's probably more so because, there's a very real black market.
Right.
And they barter for things,
Right.
I got this if you give me that, and that's kind of like the way it works. But by the time I left Cuba, that was fully in effect. You would get like it used to be like a coupon book pretty much. And you were entitled to like this much rice, this much of that, this much of that, and if you needed something else, forget it. You better make that last for however amount of time they gave you this. I think it was like a month or something.
Right.
And you needed to make it last. And it didn't matter that, you liked your coffee and all that. No, you better ration that thing so it would last. So that's one of the things that, I'm glad we got into this because, we have a lot of people who don't understand that in this country. And they want, everybody to like go into like this socialist utopia. Folks, that doesn't exist. The only way that everybody can be equal is in poverty. And when the poverty is forced upon you, you're forced to do some very desperate things. You grow your own chickens, you raise your own chickens, you have your own this, your own that. And, you're in your backyard, you have some fruit and whatever. And I have, I'm trying to be very delicate here. Let's see how I don't get in trouble by saying some of what I have to say. My family on my father's side were all political prisoners. Okay, because with the exception of I think 2, there were 7 or 8 brothers and sisters, and my father was one of the ones who did not go to jail because he was on his way to visit the family on the day they rounded up the rest of my family. He was on his way to visit the family, and somebody warned him, go back to your home. I was a baby, so go back to your home because they're rounding up your entire family. So, for daring to, want something different, for daring to, speak up.
Have individual thought.
Yes, individual thought does not exist. Now, I have other family members who may be listening, who were on the other side.
Right.
So far as to go and teach communism in other countries, to teach this communist utopia, and they have lately come to the realization that, hey, that didn't work so well, did it? And it really angers me when I see people in this country where we have everything who want to go to that. It's like, you don't get it. You should go live there. And I don't mean in the tourist towns that they just let you see, all the tourist hotspots, because I want you, to go there and live with the people who live there. Live like they live for a month or 2, and then tell me how much you like it. Tell me how, your socialist utopia panned out for you. It really angers me when I see that. And, and a lot of my students, like I said earlier, come from Cuba, because of where I teach. I would say probably more than 90% of the student population in my school is Cuban. And a lot of those kids will tell you, no, my father, my mother, they used to be a communist, but, boy, did they figure this thing out really fast. I recently had a problem. I had to take an Uber to work. My car had some problems, and I'm talking to the Uber driver, and I noticed that his English is very broken, so I started speaking to him in Spanish. I'm fluent in Spanish. And he says, well, I used to be a communist, but thank God I'm here now, because, this Uber driving thing, that doesn't exist over there.
No.
So
who owns the taxis? I know, but who owns the taxis there?
No, I know. It's
the government.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. All those cars that you see are the 50s or the 60s cars that we like think it's so cool. Those are government taxis, and they run everything there.
And they're being held together with gum and spit
Right.
because there are no parts to fix
There are
those
no
cars.
parts.
No.
Exactly. That's also a black market as
Yeah.
well. But when I speak to my mommy and poppy, from Cuba, they tell me they were so hopeful. I mean, they did like Castro, and they're very much on his side, but they were hopeful they have a new president. And they tell me things are worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
They
Oh,
are.
okay.
They are
Worse.
worse. They are worse. But one thing, I have never gone back, and
Right.
I'll tell you why. My mom, may God rest her soul, she did go back, and she told me, do not go back, because it is the most depressing place. She went to where we
Right.
used to live, and that river that lives in my memories only lives in my memories. They dammed the river.
Oh.
So everything is dried up. The farm is
Mm.
just weeds. Everything is gone. And I grew up in a house that was, if you look at a shack, that was my house. And my dad built that with his bare hands. The roof was just like palm fronds that were stuck together, and the floor was packed dirt. you know uh
Yes.
yeah.
I've
So
seen it there.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that's how I grew up. So, anyone who tells me any stories, it's like, sit down, let's talk.
Right.
Let's talk.
Right. Because you
And,
absolutely don't even understand. And that's the problem too. I encourage people seriously to go abroad.
mhm.
And again, avoid the resort areas and go look at what people are really living through,
If
because
they
it's a
allow
different
you,
world, if they
if
allow
they
you.
allow
Yeah.
you to go out of the resort areas, because the resort areas is like going to a resort in America. They
Right.
have everything there. But any Cubans that are there, they're only there because they work there. They're not
Right.
allowed to stay there or anything. I know someone who got married, and somebody who worked at one of those resorts snuck them into that resort uh, for their honeymoon. That's the only way they got to
Wow.
see them,
I
because
mean,
that
it's
is
so
how
restricted,
they
everyone, that they can't. Your local Cubans don't even get beef. They're not allowed to, because even the government owns the beef
yeah.
and the beef production there. So you can go to the resort and find it, but you will not find it in any local restaurants. Definitely any restaurants that Cubans may be able to go to or do go to. You won't find it in the houses. The manure is highly prized because everything is grown there in the island, most of all
Mhm.
your produce. So cows are revered there, and they have a agreement with the restaurants where they kind of recycle them, and in a way that they go to the resorts, and they issue another cow to the farms, kind of situation. But it's like I said, I mean, when you are told that you even have to believe in a certain religion, if you're caught not believing in that, you could be taken away. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the reality of a country like Cuba. I mean, has it got some lucidity? I mean, yeah, I even saw a pride parade there, which blew my mind. But then, it was really highly frowned upon at the time. I don't know if it's gotten looser since then or not. The religion got a little bit looser then too, but I hear things are worse now. So I haven't been back in, no, 5 or 6 years. I just went the once. But to live there was, again, it was something really, you come back going with appreciation. And it's not the first country abroad I've seen, but it was definitely the first full-on communistic country that I went to, where there's military on every corner. There's no
Oh, yeah.
police, it's the military, and it was just a different environment where, you think it's a paradise, and it might be, like I said, if you're going to the resorts, but
Mhm.
for the people, they live in a whole different world, and the money is, their salaries are tempered. You can have free education, but if you only get to make $75 an hour like everyone else, what's the incentive?
No
It's
medicine.
a different world.
There's no medicine.
That's right.
You can have a horrible disease. You can have an autoimmune disease, for example, and you will not find medicine. You
Right.
will be in pain, because
That's right.
if you can find your medicine like maybe once a year, you're lucky.
Right.
And I'm kind of like, I guess, full disclosure, I do have an autoimmune disease. I have rheumatoid arthritis, And I know what it's like to live in pain because before I found a medication that worked for me, I was in horrific pain. I could barely move.
Right.
But if you have something like that requires a very expensive medication, my medication right now is like $3,000 a month. But I have insurance and it covers
Right.
it. I only pay a couple of dollars. But try doing that in Cuba or any other communist country. If you are healthy, okay, you can probably get by. But if you have anything that's aside from what we call normal, whatever normal is, you got a problem.
Right.
You have a problem because everybody's supposed to be, quote, equal. And I'm sorry, but people come, in all kinds of different versions. My daughter, who has her problems, and then there's my niece, and then you have your son, and everybody's different. We're all unique. So this is a socialist communist country. Everybody's supposed to be the same. Everybody's supposed to be healthy, and everybody else, good luck.
Right.
Because there's nothing for you.
Right.
And and hospitals, oh my God, they're unsanitary.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. It's
We got
absolutely
the sure one.
yeah.
Right.
It's horrible. There are rats in their hospitals.
Right. Because there's no extermination.
No.
There's none of that. I mean, garbage on the streets, everyone, that gets picked up whenever.
Mhm.
But that's the reality of. That's why I say if you just venture out of the resort, and you can even see that, even I mean, maybe not downtown Havana as per se, but yeah, still downtown Havana. I saw garbage on the streets. Once you start walking through the barrios, you start seeing how the people live because they moved Cubans into everywhere.
Mhm.
Again, maybe not into the physical resort, but when you go just right outside the main city, you see all these buildings filled with the locals, and you see the garbage, you see the smell. Oh, the smell.
Uh-huh.
Right, right. So the beaches are beautiful, and they're kept that
Yes.
way on purpose.
Yes.
But it is something that I highly encourage because you need to see this. And this is not shown that way when everybody wants to think things are just wonderful, and it's communism or socialism. Even forget socialism is wonderful. And in a perfect world, I guess you could say something like that, especially if you think of the savior, the love and serve one another. If you took out the greed, the envy, the hatred or whatever, in a perfect world, in God's world, when we all pass and go to heaven, I'm assuming it's absolutely about that. We all serve and share our gifts and do that kind of thing. But once you put all this, no prosperous, we're going to hold you down. We're going to do that. It's different than what a heaven socialistic system, I guess, in my mind would look like. That serving one of another. But
Absolutely.
there's no choice. There's bartering, and there's black markets, and there's they do love their neighbors. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, no, they take care of each other.
Going on there.
They take care of each other.
Yes, they do, but they have nothing else. Everyone, nothing
No.
else. But great hearts, great people, and I have nothing but to say wonderful about the people I met and got to still be a part of their lives. But I do completely understand the frustration that this is it.
Mhm.
This is it for their life, and it's a struggle.
It is. It definitely is. So, God bless America.
Yes. Yes. And I try to talk this to the youth about this a lot. In fact, I'll even have they can talk through. So you have to understand they have Facebook, and I think Facebook only might be it. Google is now on the island.
Yeah.
Imagine that they let Google on, and Google definitely controls what they can and cannot see.
Yeah.
In fact, during COVID, they literally cut them off from the internet completely. And it took about a year for me to even hear from them. So I don't even know. And with medical, you have to understand that you don't necessarily have to make a doctor's appointment. They show up at your house. And so they sent the doctors to every house, and you were getting the shot whether you liked it or not.
Mhm.
And they cut off everybody's internet, so they couldn't communicate completely at all, or even have the chance to hear any kind of difference. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm an anti-vaxxer, but like you said before, we're all made of different things and different disorders, or maybe we're in perfect health, but the chance that you couldn't even discuss that with your own doctor even here,
Yeah.
right, was alarming.
No, and
Absolutely
you
alarming.
can't do your own individual research because everything
Right.
is controlled. They
Yes.
control what you see. In my case, as I said earlier, I have rheumatoid arthritis, and funny thing is, if you look at my true social profile, it's there. And why do I have a handicap symbol next to my name? This is because my wrists are frozen. My wrists don't move. I'm an artist, but my wrists don't move.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah. Um, so the COVID shots, I did my own research, and I came to the conclusion that if I put this into my body, this is something that has not been studied, and I already have this autoimmune disease. How is this going to react with me? And I know people, I won't mention anybody, who did that, having similar autoimmune diseases, and they've been in and out of the hospital ever since.
Right.
I did not get a single shot, and I am perfectly fine. I had COVID, I got it, and I had it twice. The first time I got it, it was horrible. I had a migraine that lasted 6 weeks. It's like, it was bad. But the second time I got it, it was just like a cold. So
Right. As we look back to what was going on with me in 2020, because I was at Columbia University and they sent us all home, and New York was really one of the first that was like on fire with COVID.
right.
And I'm pretty sure I caught it then, because for a month I was like down. Then I started getting jaundice all over my system. My legs went numb. I
Oh, boy.
couldn't walk. I couldn't, and I'm going, and they're testing me. It's sending me to specialists, everything coming up perfect health, but I'm dying. So they try to blame it that I was a drinker. My husband laughed because coffee is my drink, or water. That's really, truly what's near. I mean, I might have had a drink on my birthday, but that's really, I'm a very, very limited drinker. And so my husband's like, there's no way that this girl is, dying from pancreatic cancer. But their answer was, here, take these 10 medications. Don't work out. Don't go outside. Don't move. Do anything. Just wait to die.
Which is the worst thing that you could possibly do.
Right. And after, almost a year of this, I mean, not even that, maybe almost 9 months, my husband's like, I'm literally watching you die. And started to do things differently, change my diet, change the medications, and put me on God's medication.
Mhm.
Good foods, good things, get you up exercising, get you drinking water, and get you, we're not going to listen to these specialists because he didn't want to lose me. And what does he have to lose? Let's try her on something different. And I'm so thankful he did.
Your sponsor, the honey. I mean, honey is,
oh my gosh,
fantastic.
It's right. He calls it God's gift to us. It's truly God's medicine, he says.
Yeah.
And absolutely organic food. And I don't mean just going to the store eating organic. I mean, I have local people down the road that grow and do. I mean, right out of the garden is organic, and it completely changed my life. But also, again, God, I always give him the kudos first.
Yep.
But be able to recognize, luckily my husband recognized it's just not working for me. And then my mom, who had congestive heart failure, after taking hers, 2 weeks later, she was gone. And to go through a funeral during COVID was also not only losing my mom suddenly, we call it something different now. We call it SADS, right? Sudden adult death syndrome. Mm-hmm. But just even during that time, I mean, it was 10 people could go. I have 7 of us and the kids. We're all married. She's got 35 grandkids, great grandkids, plus all of her brothers and sisters and whatever, her being the oldest. And you had to pick and choose. It was just horrid. And to just lose somebody suddenly, and there was no answers to that, and nobody could even talk to their doctors about, and the doctors, even to this day, the insert's still blank. Yeah. And they're like, I don't even know how to counteract any, even these side effects, when we don't even know what's in these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a problem. So, again, that's the first time I really got to see something that would have been something like I saw in Cuba.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
It was just like, forced down your throat. I had 2 people who I had not heard from in, I want to say 4 or 5 years. And out of the blue, they're calling me, well, I hope you got your shot. And like, excuse me. It's like, who are you to tell me what to do with my body? Because, they ate it all up. And now.
Right.
Here we are.
One of the reasons, yes, it's one of the reasons God told me to go the way I did with my school. It was during this time right after 2021 when we opened, and I was going to put people on payroll. And he's like, when they started mandating the businesses had to become the fall guys. I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to get sued. I am no way even educated enough in health anything. I'm not classified. I'm not even, educated enough to even be your doctor, nor do I want to be that. I have no ability to tell you what to do with your body, and felt completely uncomfortable of being put in a situation where I had to tell others what to do with their own personal health, especially with not even having that background. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Again, I'm not against it, but I don't want you coming after me and holding me accountable for your health.
No, exactly. No.
Right.
And neither should you have to.
No, you shouldn't have to. I mean, it's just, and thank you so much for sharing this with us, even though I know this is not necessarily, what we were going to talk about per se. And I love your book and your art. And I know, but I'm so glad you brought this up, because so many people just don't realize, how it is in a different country, or they think this idea of socialism is a beautiful thing. And I guess in words, it kind of could be, especially this idea of everybody serving and helping each other. Sounds beautiful, but in reality, it's oppression. And like you said, everybody's fair when you're poor.
Yeah.
I love that. That's how you said that.
Yeah, it is the only way you can be equal in misery.
Right. And do we all want to live in a world like that? I know that I don't. I don't either. So it's very important that, that we start things, everyone. It can be as simple as, like you said, getting to know your neighbors, sharing that smile, conversating with others, starting a little program in your library, write a book, go to a reading hour, get active in your church or your neighborhood. Even a neighbor near me in their cul-de-sac, I met him last year, and they decided as a group that they would grow something different in each yard and then share it. What a great idea. That's a little mini version of socialism, right? Where we all grow something and share it. But I was like, they took their specialties. I know how to do chickens, and this guy knew how to do corn, and then, shared at the end of the summer. But what a fun thing to do in your own neighborhood, everyone. Right. But we need to help our nation, and we all thrive when we support each other and lift each other up, lift up our businesses, financially support each other if we can, go buy books, buy artwork, do something. Right.
Most of us are guilty of saying, oh, I wish somebody would do something about X. Why don't you get up and do it yourself? I think more people need to have that wherewithal to actually go and do the things, not just say there, oh, I wish somebody would. Well, you are a somebody. Do it.
That's right. And I love that. We'll come back to your book here, because when you described of this cloak, everyone, right, the wizard, which was God, and this cloak of this universe, you leave in this book, as well as he describes, understanding that we're all part of this cloak, which means we're all part of God's universe, and he created us, and that gives us a sense of that we can do things and we can be something, that we're special.
Yeah.
We're loved, we're special. And, and they always say that when one stands, more come. They're like, oh, okay, right, I want to go support that. Or maybe you have a friend, you guys could do it together.
Yeah, that is, that's something that's pivotal in the book, where when people who are in this lost world suddenly realize that they are all part of the great cape, then there is peace.
That's right.
When we all recognize and allow God to work through us to reach our purpose in life, and not be, selfish little twits, then we create paradise on earth, and that's the way it should be. What's getting in the way? We are selfish people. We put ourselves before everybody else, and we need to, whatever talents God has given you, put to work in his kingdom. Put it to work for the benefit of your fellow man.
Why would you not want to share those talents with others? The best way to have a talent is to share it, and share it often.
Yeah.
Right. I absolutely agree. I'm putting this back up here because, again, everybody, I can't wait for this. When do you think, Ray, that this might come out?
I'm expecting it to come out within the next 2 weeks, actually, because it's it's in print already. I'll let you know. I'll let you know when it's out. And I'll sign a few copies, if people want. But yeah, it's soon, any day now, because we went through the final proofing stages and everything already. Again, being a newbie, this is the first book that I've truly completed. I told you that I started another one, but this is the first one that I truly completed, and it took a long time, figuring everything out. Funny story is originally. Being a graphic artist, an award-winning graphic artist, let me interject that I had designed the book, and when I got the first proof, it was like, no, this is not what I have in mind at all. So we had to go back and rework some of the things. All the pages. This is the front and the back cover that you're showing here, but all the inside pages have like a really beautiful kind of like mottled color background, which you don't have that on this document.
I'll get that for you. Go ahead.
That's on a separate document, and it's okay to show that. I don't mind if you show that. And I created those backgrounds. I made all the backgrounds and I sent it to them. And the publishing company finally understood my vision, what I want. Even to the font, that font in front that says the fish and the snake, that was a font that I chose. My hand is everywhere on this book. I told them I want this specific font. I'm a graphic designer, for God's sake. I could do everything except I don't have a printing press. So
I am just going to show you some of these beautiful graphics, everyone.
So I don't know if you can tell there. There's a on the white pages that have the text. There is a background. There's a texture. I made that. Mm-hmm. I made that myself.
Oh, gorgeous!
Yeah,
I love that. Look at the graphics of this, everyone. See what I mean? So, or what he was talking about is very much into a cartoon version, so that children can view this and be a part of this. Look at this. I mean, just very beautiful, very beautiful, and I love it. Right, look, there's a whole sit here on the water wings. Oh my gosh, what a great chapter! But you can see here, I had a different visualization because you see Christ with the water wings, but I just pictured them completely iridescent, which is right, with this light coming from them. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. But the graphics are wonderful. The typing that you've chose, the font, like I said, is absolutely perfect. It's a good book. There's, I mean, and this is not no light book. It's what, about 35 or so pages, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's not very long. It's not very long.
but it's not that short either.
No.
I mean, it's not something that you would be able to, I think, finish. I mean, you might, but I can see myself reading to my kids over a couple of nights per se, if you wanted to, especially depending on your age limit of your children. Teens could read this easily in a matter of a day. This would be a great read for a ELA class. But for littler kids, I love to used to read to my kids over dinner. So I could see me reading a few chapters and purposely going, dun, 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 what's going to happen next? Well, we're going to wait till tomorrow, everyone. But it's just right, just having the graphics for the littler kids to get and see, but yet it's so descriptive that you can also come up with your own imagination of what you're seeing. Like I said, with the wings, I just pictured them, these enormous, like you did the one of Raphael, right? With the big, huge, long wings, and they were clear, except this rainbow light, like a crystal, right? It's just coming through them, just reflecting everywhere. That's what I envisioned, because the writing was so good, everyone. I can't wait. I can't wait to have this out. And I will, please let us know, because I also want to come and tell my audience when it's ready. If you want to stop in for a few minutes, so when it's ready. But, we could do that too, but I definitely want to make sure our audience knows. Go, and you can go get it now.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. So where does everybody find you? I mean, we talk about Truth, and I love Truth Social.
Right.
I don't know if you belong to the group Patriot Made. Brian stuff. Okay, good. Okay, that's maybe where.
Yeah. Brian's a great guy. I was shocked the first time he looked at one of my pieces and he said, "Hey, this is really good." I was like, "Well, Brian likes my work." It's like, wow,
great.
I'm such a fan of his work.
Right? And, I'm sitting there and he's showing it when he was on the show and he's showing his artwork. And he's like, yeah, I did that one in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I am not a speed artist. In fact, I have a
No.
painting that I'm going to be unveiling on Sunday on
Oh,
my
wow.
Sunday show. But it
Nice.
takes me, I'm an oil painter. And
Yeah.
I can do acrylics, I can draw, and those come very much faster, everyone. So when I say I've created a piece, it's my oil paintings, and they go in a 3 process because I do transfer, collage, and then oil, and I glaze my layers. So being from Arizona and living in Arizona, they would dry much faster
Mhm,
than they
mhm.
do when you're in the humid climate, number one. And glazing takes a while to dry because if you go and do another glazing, you're just going to smear the oil paints. You have to let
Mhm.
it dry before you go do another layer. So it takes me a month or two. And I'm sitting here in utter jealousy of Brian as he's finished this masterpiece in a couple of hours, and
I
it's acrylic.
know. I know.
But I'm like, I need to get more into acrylic because that accomplishment of finishing something. But he is really, really great. And he's got a new book coming out next year with Leah, and I had
Right,
them both on. But he
right.
started this group at Truth called Patriot Made. And again, just to highlight other artists and so forth. And if you don't belong to it, let you do. I suggest you guys try to find that, right? It's a great group. And he is another wonderful, humble soul with, a talent and willing to share things and be a part and help other people lift other people up. And that's even what makes him more remarkable. It makes people like you too, Ray, more remarkable because we're not only here to share our gift, but to lift others up.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, besides telling us where to find you, I do have another question for you.
Yes.
How hard is it for somebody who feels like they just can't do it? They can't be an author, or they can't be an artist, you guys don't have to draw. First of all, let me say that you could be a musician, you could be a dancer, you could be a creative writer, you could be an advertising, digital arts. You could be a mathematician using color theory. There's so many ways, okay, to be
Mhm.
an artist. So understand that when I say that. But people who are blocked and feel like I can't go forward. I don't, maybe I'm not talented. Like the boy that you spoke to, I'm not beautiful. So how do people learn how to shine? What is your suggestions to them?
I've had so many students who have told me, "Oh, I don't know why I'm in this class. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler." Um, but my advice is always, look, everything can be learned if you are just patient. Patience, you have to like to be an artist, to be a writer, any type of artist, you have to have time to yourself because ultimately what an artist is expressing is a piece of their soul. And
Right,
you cannot share your soul if you don't know who you are. So you need to spend time by yourself. You need to go to a park. If you don't have a park close to you, just lock yourself up in your room, and talk to yourself. Get in touch with your inner being. Who are you? Because until you do that, you can't do anything else. And then, for my students, what I've done is like, when I taught drawing in the past, I'm not teaching drawing right now. I'm teaching commercial art. But when I taught drawing in the past, it's like, look, we're going to start off by learning how to shade. Shading is the secret to good art. And we're just going to take this little rectangle here and we're going to shade it and make it look like a box. And we're going to take this circle here and we're going to shade it and it's going to look like a sphere. And yeah, and that's how I start them off. And then little by little, I can't draw a human being. Okay, so let's start off with the eye. What is the eye? You have to understand a little bit of what makes life work. You have to understand the mechanics, the anatomy. You have to understand that in order to work with it. Because if you're an artist, I don't care how much talent you have, if you don't understand how the bones work and how the sinews work, you're not going to be a good artist. But that's my advice to everybody. If you want to be a writer, the first thing you have to do is you have to sit down, you have to think, and don't allow the distractions to take you away. That's a problem that the youth today have. They have
yes.
too many distractions. They have their phones, that have
I was
everything.
just gonna say that number one problem.
Yeah, that is the number one problem. Our smartphones have made us stupid. Okay. Here's mine. And I used to know where everybody lived.
Right.
I used to
Phone
know
numbers, addresses, everything, birthdays.
yes. I used to know what was on TV back then, back when I used to watch TV. I used to know what was on when. I used to know everything. I was the guy. I don't know if you remember Trivial Pursuit when my daughter's getting home. That's my daughter getting home. Hi, sweetheart. So
yeah, I'm back at your house. What's up?
All right, Mama. Thank you. I'm still online. Okay. When Trivial Pursuit became popular, I was the guy that everybody wanted on their team because I knew a little bit about everything. And now I'm just plain stupid. Oh, let me Google it.
Right. We need a Trivial Pursuit for idiots now. Right.
We do.
Right.
We do, but the problem is the distraction. You need to put away the distractions,
and destroying them.
Yeah, if you want to write, if you want to sing, I told you my youngest daughter is a singer. You have to put away the distractions. The hardest thing for my daughter is completing a song when she's writing a song because she's constantly on Instagram messaging her friends through Instagram.
Right.
And she has such a hard time finishing it because there are too many darn distractions. Right. And we need to put those things aside. I understand that, for people who are out there saying, like, oh yeah, but I'm doing a million things. I get that. Okay. I'm a single father. I have 3 children. I have a full-time job, but I try to dedicate it about an hour and a half a day to my art. When I was writing the book, it was the same thing, so, and, I'm a high school teacher, so I have to be at my school by 7 in the morning. So, and, I wake up and I'm not a morning person. I wake up and I exercise, I do some push-ups, I do some stretching, and I have to have my coffee, like a quiet environment. Don't bother me. You want to see me in a bad mood? Start talking to me early in the morning. So, I have to wake up super early. I have to wake up at 4:30, 4:35 in the morning in order to be able to be in a good mood for the rest of the day. So I don't have that much time. I honestly don't. I maintain my own home. I do the cleaning in my home and everything like that. So, I can't afford a cleaning lady. I'm only a teacher, so I do everything by myself. So it's discipline.
Yes.
Everything comes down to discipline. Whether you're a writer, a singer, an artist, what have you, you have to be disciplined. And you have to give that certain passion its time, because that is who you are. An artist who doesn't create is dead. Right. Their soul is dead. On a day that I don't create, whether it be through, writing, photography, drawing, what have you, if I don't do something creative a day, I just feel like something's just not right. So,
I kind of look at this way too, that I relate. If we don't take care of us, they always say it's like the airplane thing. If we don't put our own masks on to take care of us, then how can we put it on somebody else, right? If we don't take care of our own health, we won't be here to take care of our own children. So there's a certain kind of priority, that you have to do. You have to find that time, number one, for you, know who you are, but also take that same time and go, I'm going to put that same energy into me. I'm going to create this. And it's call it selfish or not, but if you really want to truly start something, the best way to believe in yourself is give you and dedicate that time to you.
Yeah. If you don't love yourself, how dare you try to say that you can love other people? Because if you can't even love yourself, how can you love other people? And that's something, unfortunately, as I said at the beginning, I've been divorced for 13 years. I dated a lot of women, but most women do not know how to love themselves. Right. And, and it goes for men too. They're trying to find somebody who will take care of whatever that need that they have is. And you cannot, that is unfair to rely on another person to take care of your needs. You have to love yourself first. You have to be able to have something that you can bring to the game and share with one another, My least favorite line in a movie that most people are going to go, oh, who said that? Is the line from that Tom Cruise movie that says, "You complete me." It's like, no, that is so wrong. Nobody should complete you. You should be complete unto yourself and share that completeness with another person. You don't need somebody to complete you. You need to complete yourself.
Right. You're already complete because God made you perfect.
Yes.
You just don't even honor it or realize it.
Mm-hmm.
But he just loves us all, and he created us differently on purpose.
Yes.
I always refer to this like if God wanted all the flowers to be the same, he could have created all red roses.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't. And there's a vast variety of flowers, a vast variety of colors. We should celebrate that, know that we're all beautiful, and truly learn who you are and to love you. Put that time, that energy, and believe in you.
How sad
Right?
that we go through the world not seeing that beauty that God gave us.
Right.
Because all you have to do is just step outside, and there is what you consider weeds, and they have the most beautiful flowers if you just stop and look at them.
Right. Think about all the wildflowers that we just mow over. I saw it this year because the allergies were really crazy. And the pollens were, very high, but that's because God just went all over the earth and said, boom, here you go. Yeah. But all the wildflowers everywhere. In fact, on Sundays, I was showing people like what herbs we can eat out of our own yards. Mm-hmm. And I'm picking out spring onions, and I'm picking from my yard, mm-hmm. Dandelions and spring onions and garlics and, I'm like clover and just some of the most beautiful flowers and edible roses, wild roses and wild strawberries. And I'm like, come on, people. Right. Yeah. I mean, and why would we be any different? If you create that kind of beauty in our nature, why do you think that we're any different?
See beauty in everything. It's there. It's there for you. I see people, when I'm going to work, I see people, we have the most amazing sunrises now. I see people who just get into the car and it's like, hey, did you see the sunrise? Oh, no, I didn't.
Right.
Come on. It's like,
one of the things I loved about Arizona, if you ever get to Arizona, their skies are something else.
Yeah, I have.
From the color and then the stars, because their skies are so big, everyone, and so clear, the stars feel like you could just almost grab them. Yeah. I'm not a lover of the desert and the heat by any means, but the skies in Arizona.
I remember that. I took my daughters to the Grand Canyon. I want to say about 5 years ago. My God, that heat was stifling. But I just sat there in front of the Grand Canyon, and I was just like mesmerized.
Yes.
And I paid for the helicopter ride to see it from above. Oh my God, yes.
Right. I got to spend a week in that area in my geology class in college. And we got to go look at the fossils, and I'm all geeking out because that archaeology in me, and it's like, right. Because I also love science and art, everyone, and understand that architecture or archaeology, that's in that field of art. And I am geeking out at looking at fossils of plant life and shellfish and whatever all we've literally built into the Grand Canyon areas. And I was in heaven. Heat again, horrible, but the beauty and the magnificence of it was something else.
That dry heat.
Not fair.
For someone who has lived in Miami most of his life.
Cuba's hot, everyone. Cuba's hot. There's hot, and then there's hotter in Cuba.
Yeah. Yes. I was born in the coldest town in Cuba. It's a little town called Placetas. That is the coldest town in Cuba, but it's
still hot, everyone. It's still hot, right? The difference is you're soaking wet and it feels it's much better.
It's like air conditioning. What's that?
That is the air conditioning in Cuba. Unless you're in a resort, there is no air conditioning.
I learned what air conditioning was when I came to America.
Right.
I remember staying at my cousin's house. It was actually my mom's cousin, my second cousin. And I was like, what's that? Because they had back then they had the window units.
Right.
What's that cold thing in the window?
What is this, magic?
Yeah. No. Hey, let me tell you perspective. I used to think when I remember, going with my dad to a 7-Eleven and telling my dad, be careful, this is a fancy store. Because I had never seen that.
Never.
It's just
No,
perspective.
right. The mercados are little tiny there. They have
Yeah.
very seldom things, and I like I said, I'm not saying my trip to Cuba is in a disrespectful manner. I learned a lot. I
Mhm.
loved my trip. You know, I may not agree with their government style per se, but I loved my trip. I loved the people, and I sure as heck learned a lot about loving my country. If I was already patriotic, coming from founding fathers and military, retired military. Oh, quick story. I went to the area of the Bay of Pigs, and that is oh, tell me the area. It's Playa
Playa Girón?
no, where the Bay of Pigs was. I want to say I can't remember right now. It'll probably come to me later. But there's a certain area that is, where we had that. There was a confrontation of Cuba against Americans. It was during the Cold War, and literally the carriers were on the outside just waiting for the call to go in. And there were other forces that came in during this. But my father was on one of those carriers. And to sit there in the area, and I thought maybe it's not Playa Larga, but I'm thinking, anyways, it was just a humbling experience to sit there and hear both sides of the story, knowing one side and then hearing this other side and knowing how disastrous that could have been. It could have launched a huge Cold War. It was a very humbling experience as well. But I got to see so many parts of Cuba. I went to Trinidad, and I got to go into the towers of the slave plantations. I've never cried so hard in my life as I'm looking at the slave homes, the homes where the slaves actually stayed. And they're not that way anymore. But to see that and to see the fields and to know that, I'm like, and read my great grandfather's stories, like Alexander Hamilton, who was in a different area, but that's what he did. He counted in slaves, and in customs, and to know that kind of existence, but to know that it's still this depression and holding these guys down still existed. They may not be slaves per se. I'm not saying that they are, but I appreciate it a lot. And again, it's a very beautiful country. So if you get to
No,
go
it
to
is. It is. I have my childhood memories, walking through, the fields, picking rice, picking corn, all of these things that we did, setting up traps for I guess there would be rock Cornish hens that would come and eat the rice, and then we would feast on the rock Cornish hens that would fall into the traps. Yeah, I remember all that.
There's a few things they have us on, everyone. So I will tell you some great points. The mango and the avocado, I mean, they are the size of my arm. Okay. And they're organic. So when I would go taste fruit there, I was like, wow. And they would tease us. Oh, tengo frutas con químicas. You have fruit with chemicals, they would say. In the States, I'm like, yes, they're spraying everything. This is not how a mango tastes, in my country. And then I was like, every morning I'd have slices of mango and avocado and just be like,
it tastes different.
It tastes different, completely different.
You know
And
where I
was like,
noticed
wow.
that difference in strawberries.
Yeah.
Strawberries in America, because of all the chemicals and all, taste very different from strawberries in Spain. When I went to Spain to visit my ex-wife's family, because they're from Spain, they have strawberries growing wild, and you just pick them off, off the tree, the bush, whatever, and you eat it, and they're sweet.
Right.
But they're small.
Right. It's so funny because I just picked some strawberries from my garden this morning. I only had 5 so far, but as we're tasting them, my husband was like, that's a real strawberry. I'm like, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable the difference. But yes, I'll tell you something. They do have some stuff on us when it comes to tropical fruits, everyone. No holds barred. The taste alone, you'll just be like, oh, you'll be just blown away. You're like, wow, because everything there is organic. So, all right, we are coming to about closing time. So I'm going to pull this up so everyone can see your beautiful website again. Tell everyone why I'm doing this, where they can find you on all your social medias.
So mostly I'm on Truth Social these days. So on Truth Social, I'm Rei. If you look at my name there, it's REI. Just twice Rei, because that came from a coworker who used to call me Rei. So that's who I am on Truth Social, and I post my artwork there all the time. The link to my my portfolio, which is on the screen right now, is on all my drawings. It's a very long address, so I won't even try to tell you what that is. here, and I'm still on Facebook. It's Rei Luzardo, Luzardo, and on Instagram it's Rei Luzardo Art. So that's where you can find me for most things. And if you are interested in like buying a print or anything like that of my work that is on that portfolio that's online, you can just go there and there's an order form there as well. You don't have to buy the original piece, because very few people I know can afford that. But prints I sell for $35-$40 each. So I think we can afford that.
I like that too. And I'm going to be doing something very similar because not everyone can afford that, but they want a piece of artwork. And I'm totally up for that too with prints. A great way for you to have a wonderful piece of art and that you can afford. And we love to be able to do that. I will find his, I will find his Facebook and his Instagram. I'll just get that from an email, everyone. I've already posted in the Rumble links in the actual chat that's underneath the shows is where I post all of our links. I've already posted where you can find his portfolio. But I will go back and I will add his Facebook, Instagram, and Truth channels so that you guys can look that up as well for his work. Okay. So that we know where to find you. But if you don't come, if you're not part of Truth, come on over, everyone. The water's lovely.
It really is.
Supporting artists like crazy. They have what's called True to Art right now. Thank you, Greg Phillips, for starting that. I've been highlighted. Brian's been highlighted. You guys are probably up next. Yeah. I mean, and it's this art world that he's created to just highlight these wonderful, wonderful artists. And
everybody thinks it's all politics, but it's not. There are so many different groups that you can join. There's one I'm trying to see if I can remember what it's called right now. Give me 1 second here to find it on my phone.
There was Patriot Made, like I told you, and that's literally made by patriots in this nation. So if you're making anything from artwork to you have a business, or maybe you started, I don't know, chainsaws or a coffee company or whatever, everything's starting to come underneath that. I love this group feature.
Yeah, there's one that's called the Truth Art Project.
Yes, that's the one I was talking about. Thank you. From Greg Phillips, right?
Yep. And there's another one called Artists of Truth Social.
Okay.
So there are a lot of art pages. There's for photography, if you're interested in photography, there is one that's just black and white photography. That's what it's called. And there's another one. I'm trying to find it. It's just
I'm writing these down too, guys, because I didn't even know about the Artists of True Social. I knew about the True to Art.
Yeah. And there's one that's just photography. So if you're interested in like color photography, you might want to join just photography, or even black and white. But if you just do black and white photography, like I always did, I love black and white. There's one for black and white photography. And these groups are very active. People look at each other's work and, they critique it. They praise each other. It's very nice. It's really nice. Don't think the Truth Social is only politics.
Right. It can be. I mean, it's like every other social media. If that's your algorithm and that's what you're always looking into, it's going to tailor that for you, just like I would imagine every other social media does, right? And give you highlights of what you're interested in. I tend to get a lot more artists and businesses and stuff on, they come my way because that's what I'm into. And education, because again, with my school, that's what I'm into. But it's a great platform. Everyone come by and be a part of this because I love supporting other people in this nation. It really is an honor when I say to have my guests on, because that's the only reason I have this voice right now is to highlight others. I mean, I would watch news and I'm not even these other podcasts from people I love, and they say, get busy, do something in your community. But then they would never highlight what people were doing.
Sure.
And so when they had me on, Scott, my wonderful producer, when he had me on, and he was talking to me about that, I was like, I'd love to have a show where I can highlight others. He goes, I'll give you a show. I can get you a show on.
Awesome. And awesome.
I was like, really? So just to be able to show everyone here who's watching what other people are doing or how to do it, it's been a real honor.
What a privilege. Yeah.
Right.
And so thank you for allowing me to come on.
Like I said, it's really my privilege. I got so busy with you guys that I have a separate show on Sunday, because I started this originally on thinking if students don't know how to do this, their parents probably don't either. and I would teach how to write a business plan or how to start a garden or how to raise chickens. And because I have so many wonderful guests coming on from Twitter and Truth and so forth, that now I have a Sunday show where I do that, where I actually show you how to do things. And I'm just, again, I mean, it's, you guys, I never thought I was going to even be a podcast host, but here we are. And what a wonderful position. I'm not making money here. Oh, speaking of, please don't forget to like and rumble and share this, right, everyone? Rumble rant if you can, because we want to help my producer continue to give us this platform. But it's an honor to be able to highlight when the news just doesn't seem to do it, or we don't hear any good stories at all. It's a real honor to sit there and show you every Friday another person who's making changes in a school, their community, and in our nation.
Absolutely, because it's needed. It's
really it is. Yes, it is. I couldn't agree with you more. So come on over, guys, if you're not on Truth Social. And if you want to find out Rei's links, please come to Rumble, and they will be all listed there. Any more inspiration? Any final words you would like to say to our guests this evening?
I just want to say thank you for having me on, and sorry if I've been long-winded, but that's just me. I love to talk, and I love to share, what the good Lord has given me. Believe it or not, I was shy when I was young, but that went away a long time ago. If you have a talent, if you have an ability, don't keep it hidden under the table. It's in scripture. You don't light a lamp and hide it under a table. Okay, so be a light to the world. The world needs your talent. The world needs to see what you do. Make the world a better place. Share that ability. Good God, I am sure that these two people on the split screen right now would absolutely love to see what you are doing. Creativity, you're all creative. Everybody's creative. Just share it with the world. Let the world see who you are. Let the world see your soul. You're not just this mechanical thing that you have been told that you just have to produce. Get in touch with your soul and share it with the world. That's all I have to say.
I love that, because I like that be that light and let it shine. It's so important to understand that. And again, you don't have to necessarily be the artist. Maybe you started a new community program. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to celebrate you. Reach out, and let us highlight you and your talent. And don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid, because even if you start out imperfect, guess what? If you practice, guess what? You're going to fine tune that, and you're going to get it. You're going to get it where you like it. I can't tell you that it's going to be perfect in my eyes, but it's perfect for your eyes, and that's where it needs to be.
And what's perfect? What's perfect? In our Father's eyes, we're all perfect.
That's right. I agree, because He created us all. So thank you so much, Rei. I really appreciate you. And I can't wait, guys. As soon as I know when that book comes out, I will let you know, or we'll have Rei back on and he can reintroduce that and tell us where to find it. So
I will let you know.
Support him. And it's really been a pleasure. I look forward to it. And I hope you have the greatest weekend. And early, happy Father's Day. Because you know what? Our men are so important. Our fathers are so important. And thank you. I'll take that prayer.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great evening.
Good night.
All right, everybody. I am so excited. You can see that. I love highlighting you. It really does make my day so much when I get to share your world with others and give you guys pieces of advice. And hopefully I'm helping build you up so that you know that you can do it. I really do believe in that. So reach out. If you have something you want to share with me, whether it's artwork or a business or a community program, or you're running for a position or whatever your talent might be, I am open to hear that and invite you to come on and be a part of this world. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming here and supporting us. I am so honored. The numbers of viewers that are watching this show and sharing it out. Again, thank you so much, everyone. I'm so glad that you like what I'm providing here. And I'm going to keep on doing it. In fact, Sunday we have an introduction. We've got some new artwork I'm going to be displaying. And I love to start our Sunday show off with prayers and scriptures and have that little vibe going on with you. I didn't think I was going to be able to be here live, and things changed for that. So I'm going to be very excited to be rolling out a new piece of artwork with you, talking to you guys about our new website, and introducing to you an alternative if you've got youth. Maybe it's not even youth that are struggling in a school system that you're okay with. Maybe that youth is not feeling appreciative or loved and you need a different environment. So we are going to be going over that this Sunday. But as I share this out with everybody, again, you can find all of our links underneath my Rumble channel. If you're looking those up, you can find me on almost every social media, and I am back on Facebook. I mean, maybe, it's nice that you can find Lady Hamilton Art, or you can find my school, Hamilton Liberty Academy. Either way, it seems like I'm on all social media now, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Truth is my favorite. I'm on that probably, my most reaction. But you can find me on all those, Gitter, Gab, and either under Lady Hamilton Art or Hamilton Liberty Academy, and just reach out and let me know what your talent is, and I would love to have you on. So thank you, everybody. You know that I love to finish my shows with a song. So we are going to finish one of my favorites, and hopefully YouTube lets us play it, without, if it's weird and it goes in and out, that that's just YouTube. But I do love hearing from our youth, and I love when they sing. So we are going to share one of my new favorite songs from the Clarksville Elementary as we finish the show tonight. So I hope everybody has a great evening. I will see everybody. My show is Sunday at noon. And please don't forget to check out our other shows here. Liberty Arise has got a show every single day. Our producer does amazing shows on the news, so make sure you check those out. Those are on Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday, and especially right before me. I usually get his theme song stuck in my head because I come on right after him. But you can find us on Liberty Arise Media or under Scott Adams. If you want to help promote us or help us with our platform, there's great ways. You can go to Cash App with Hamilton Liberty. You can go and to HamiltonLibertyAcademy.com/donations if you want to help out our school. But with Liberty Arise, you can go to Be Nourished, which we played for you before. And also you could go to, like I would say, buy my producer a coffee. A cup of coffee, guys, goes a long ways. And that's just buy me a coffee/Scott Adam. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We sure do appreciate you being here this evening. And I look forward to seeing everyone on Sunday. And let me just load this up as we have this beautiful song as we leave. Have a great night.
Your brand into your customers' hands, or their heads,
Get this ad.
or their
Apologize,
backs.
everyone.
Or
Let me load it up. All right, everyone. Have a great evening.
There comes a time when we hiss and call, when the world must come together as one. There are people dying, and it's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. We can go on pretending day by day that someone somehow will soon make a change. We are all a part of God's great big family, and the truth, love is all we need. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. There's a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, make a better day, just you and me. Well, sing from your heart, so that another someone cares, so the cries for help will not be in vain. We can't let them suffer, no when you're down now and there seems no hope at all. But if you just believe, there's no way we can fall. Well, let us realize that a change can only go when we stand together as one. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're taking our own lives. It's true, make a better day. Just you and me. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're taking our own lives. It's true, just you and me. We all need somebody that we can lean on. When you wake up, look around and see that your dream's gone. When the earthquakes will help you make it through the storm. When the floor breaks, a magic carpet to stand on. We are the world united by love so strong. When the radio isn't on, you can hear the songs. A guiding light on the dark road you're walking on. A signpost to find the dreams you thought was gone. Someone to help you move the obstacles you stumbled on. Someone to help you rebuild after the road was gone. We are the world connected by a common bond. Love, the whole planet singing along. Nosotros somos el mundo. We are the children. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. Let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true, make a better day. Just you and me. It's true, we make a better day. Just you and me.
At Liberty, we train champions for Christ, but